home for him, or like where he felt he belonged. It was not quite comfortable saying. So yeah, he didn't seem to feel like he belonged to Slovenia or to Serbia, despite the fact that he didn't. I think he ended up obtaining a Serbian passport. But he said, no, I'll be happy to say I felt or I feel Yugoslav. And yesterday Katarina was telling me also, and I mean, this thing was a new thing when people were told now you need to become a citizen of this republic, because people they were citizens of Yugoslavia. So how this kind of like switch in mentality that then you give people a window of time, but it's like this is like your whole life you've got yourself in one way, and now
okay, I mean it was on let's say on this let's say on this formal level, yes, we could say okay, yeah, we all knew that we are Yugoslav citizens, yeah. But here in Slovenia, it was. I mean, I can say for myself, as I grew up here as somebody who came from Bosnia, as a child, we were Bosnians for Slovenians,
right?
Bosnians. So I mean, nobody ever told me that I'm Yugoslav.
By that you mean that you felt that people were making a difference between them and you?
Absolutely, yeah. In a very nationalistic way. Yeah, it was in a pejorative way.
Right. You were less than them.
Yeah. It's something like saying somebody Negro.
Yeah.
Sons.
Yeah. Is that a specific thing between Slovenia and Bosnia, or would the same thing happen to someone from Serbia?
Yeah. We were all Bosnians for Slovenians. Only later, with the dissolution of Yugoslavia and with all those wars that started in Croatia and Bosnia and so on, that Slovenians really started to kind of recognize that there are differences among us.
Okay.
That is why I told you that they see us, uniformly. And then how they also looked at you raised, you as a uniform group, We were non-Slovenians, and that's it. That was, like a negative identity.
That's very telling. I wouldn't have imagined that they couldn't see.
And probably, but this is something again that I can probably see and I can understand and tell you, because others they didn't really have
experience. Well, that's very telling. That before the erasure, this is why they saw.
I mean, for example, I don't know if I say any Bosnian word, let's say, with my friends, or I don't know if I use the Bosnian word by mistake, in the classroom, they were laughing at me, etc. And even teachers, they were like very angry with us, you're in Slovenia, you should speak Slovenian, etc.
Okay, so
that nationalism, it wasn't born in 91.
It was what allowed 1991 to happen, right?
It was present also. So for example, for me, really, it was funny, to hear that we were all Yugoslavs. But
that's why
nobody ever told me. I never felt like Yugoslav.
Like formally you were, but in your experience, you were not Slovenian.
Yeah. For me, it was this experience as a Bosnian.
And it was just for anybody who was non-Slovenian.
But there was this coincidence that I was actually from Bosnia, so that is why for me it wasn't that difficult. For somebody who was from Serbia, probably it wasn't.
Being called Bosnian, right? And why specifically Bosnia?
Because I think it has to do again with the class.
That's what I was guessing, but I wanted to
because the majority of low-paid manual, jobs, so they were really occupied by Bosnians mainly.
Right.
Also by others, but most, let's say, numerously,
It was a kind of a border republic, then Slovenia, and then the other republics in a way, and I guess that's why people were leaving too, right?
Major, let's say, exporter of the cheap labor force at that time.
Right. Okay.
Bosnia.
Yeah, so that's kind of very different from we were all brothers, right? The kind of idea that Yugoslavia, at least formally,
probably it was different experience for those who came to Slovenia as, let's say, as a first generation, like for example my parents,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, their experience was totally different. They came here to work, They were very poor, in Bosnia, so they were very happy, They came
to have a better life
jobs,
here.
better life, and they got a flat, they could have family, etc. But for us, for second generation, the experience was
It's like, you're not one of us.
Yeah.
But you feel Slovenian if you like in your.
It depends what you think when you say Slovenian. I mean, political identity, I feel Slovenian. That means like a citizen,
Right.
But culturally, no. I feel Bosnian,
And you think that has to do with the fact that your family is Bosnian, or just the fact that you grew up with the feeling that you were not Slovenian?
I think it has to do more with that fact that
the
my family is actually Bosnian.
And then when you speak with your siblings or your mom, you speak in Bosnian. So Interesting.
So I mean, this is when you have this more dimensions, of your identity.
Yeah.
Like you have, I don't know, gender or
Exactly.
Social.
But the fact that you were as a scholar and everything, as you were saying, you could see certain things because of your own experience.
This is again, as Hannah Arendt says, this privileged position of an alien. For example, she as a Jew, that she experienced. In a way, you are kind of innocent, because you're not part of this of this body, of this community, and you have this privilege, to look kind of, from as an outsider. And so in a way that you can even say some things that maybe that insiders are not allowed to. Sometimes I always. I make jokes, for example, at work and so on, and when we maybe have a dispute about something or different opinions or whatever, and then I say something directly, openly, and say, "Oh, sorry, I'm from the Balkans, you can."
Because that's the thing, right? Slovenia has this self-perception of we're not Balkans, we're Europeans.
So I kind of use this argument to
you embrace it. It's an interesting mix of identities, because with the erase, for example, you were on both sides, right? You were part of the collective that kind of perpetrated it, but then you were also on, it could have been you, right? It's a foot in every. So, is there any other thing you would like to, that crossed your mind, that would like to share, whatever? I think I pretty much went over my questions and even stretched it and I would I think all this, all this last part we were talking about is, and I think it all comes together, especially as I talk to more people, so I have more elements to see a bigger and bigger and bigger picture.
It becomes more and more meaningful.
Exactly. Things that you see the connection.
You get kind of a whole picture as well.
Much more, and also when I read work by studies and works that have been published, you always when you publish, you always pick a slice and you go for an argument. It's a different procedure, right? Than when in a conversation, it's the thing that goes astray that then triggers,
because when you research through the articles,
and secondary stuff,
you are always a bit more biased, because you have more, let's say, this is because some argument, kind of resonates.
This is what I was looking for. Okay, I'm citing
because
this.
It resonates great, with your own mental.
It confirms
So, but when you talk to someone,
it's I haven't. I'm really glad
you don't get any, disagreement when you
Yeah,
when you
exactly.
follow
There's no
your
back
own-
and forth, right? Yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and it definitely like I don't, I get the feeling that sometimes it's, when you get immersed and you talk with a lot of people about something, this things start to repeat, but in slightly different ways. Then you have like it helps build your intuition, so that then when you come back to the research and the materials, you can sort of say, I agree with this, I'm not quite sure about this, even though maybe like this is totally fine as an argument, but it informs your gut in a very
But this is when you really that real comprehension on the inside, how to look,
Yeah, I feel like I could stay here for a year and talk with people, and I would
what
still.
I wanted to ask you. How long are you going to stay?
So I came for 2 months, and I'm trying to talk with as many people as I can within certain parameters, right? There's always this like snowball effect related, but trying to like have a sense of why I'm talking to people, and also letting it go a bit crazy because that's part of the. But it doesn't give me the feeling. So I didn't know what I was going to find when I came here. I had talked with some of the people, but it was not. I didn't have any interviews before coming here, anything. And so what I feel now is that a million steps, ahead of where I was when I arrived, and in a month I will be like a million more. But it does feel like, I could totally like have 10 interviews per month for a year, and it would, it's just like it catches you, right, in a way that, and I chose to do a kind of work where I'm not trying to become an expert in the cases. I'm relying on the expertise that other people have.
So this is exactly what I wanted to say. You don't have to really here to discover. I mean, there's almost nothing new to be discovered. It's what you can do really is
connect,
especially with these
other cases,
different cases, and this pattern that this is something that I also did in my PhD.
Yeah, because we're also comparing to
when I also why I, for example, when I first, of course, I thought about having carrying out research just on Bosnia, former Yugoslavia. But then somehow I said, well, that's really not enough for me. I mean, this case is too close to me. I know it's very good, and again, I will be biased. Anyway, I mean, what new will I know?
Yeah, there's always that question.
Will come out of this, and so then I know, because I knew about the genocide in Rwanda quite well also from the time when I did my master's in Budapest, because I was reading, let's say, documentary materials about how actually those documents that were actually showing, that genocide is going to happen. So many, sources that actually showed what is going to happen, and the United Nations did nothing, and the Security Council actually even withdrew, the UN peace forces from UNAMIR, from Rwanda, and so on. And I said, okay, now I have here 2 cases of genocide that actually happened at the same time, in the same, historical period, beginning of the 1990s, and when I looked, how they were carried out, what way, I mean, they were really so, obviously so similar, but at the same time
so different in the regions. You would never connect these cultures.
No, whatsoever. There was no connection whatsoever. So, okay, now let's start and see,
if there is a pattern.
And unfortunately there is, very, very clearly.
To me, that's it keeps I see that lots of people choose to specialize in regions, and I understand why, because I also come from a region, and I also studied the region for a long time, and it is a type of knowledge that is so meaningful and so important. But when you take places of the world that barely know about each other, right? And you see these connections about how things happen. It is impossible to not feel like I want to go after this. I want to, not to say that the specificities don't matter, but just to like see if there's something, like
I mean, it's purely because for understanding.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I myself, I had that such a strong urge in me, since I was young at the time when the war started. I was in high school at the time, and I mean, for me, my whole world really collapsed at the time. I just started when I became teen, started to go to high school. Country collapsed, and not only collapsed, brutal,
the horror,
mass atrocities, were committed, and with hundreds of thousands of refugees, that swept all over the world from Bosnia, etc. And also then finally what happened in Srebrenica and so on. That I was totally. I mean, I just couldn't,
make sense.
Yeah, I mean, I really needed to understand, not to rationalize it, but to understand.
Yeah.
And so this is actually how I started then my PhD research. I just to understand, and then at the same time it's great then to bring it to make some scientific contribution. If you could connect that case to another
and
case.
to like it forces you to like get out, for example, of the idea that this happened because it was the Balkans, and these things happen in the this happened because it's Africa. In Africa, people, like.
Then I always say to people, but how come the Holocaust still happened in Germany?
It's all exactly, and also the fact that when you start, you can also see, you can hope that somewhere along the way we will be able to point to the alarms that that's why, for example, the erasure, although it didn't get.
This is actually, I mean, yes, when we talk about genocide and all this, even erasure and so on, it's always about racism.
Yeah.
It's always racism that
that's under it.
It's like, when you really, when a group of people is being taken this human dignity, this human dimension, itself, from them. It's just, they're being dispossessed, of this human attribute. They're just, I don't know, they're just beings. They're not human beings anymore. And that is why I think this is really something that what I learned from Hannah Arendt is, what I can do, I know, as political theorist at least, is just to, how I can fight it is to dismantle it, to show its true face. It's not, something about some, demonic monsters. Blah, blah, blah.
It's like bringing back this human dimension of it. And actually, for example, yesterday Katerina was telling me, like, I think I have the exact thing, because she was bringing up this, like, the word that presented the erased as humans, as human beings, what a contribution that was. And you hear it and you're like, of course, you mean like just people, but it's like just people, but also
human beings,
right? It's the human part that like we keep, and it's amazing because like Hannah Arendt said this a long time ago.
Actually, you come, what I actually stumbled at in my PhD, of course, was also this this very philosophical issue of
you were with last title, so
on, and of course I didn't follow that on because I'm not a philosopher and so on.
But it's
very it is actually maybe for some philosopher to develop that issue of the unity of humanity itself. It's a major issue, I think. Also, there more and more.
Yeah, and maybe like people like us that look at these cases at other people, because I still, like, well, you didn't have, and now I understand why for you was not a surprise that I was looking at Kuwait and Slovenia at the same time.
No, I wasn't surprised.
Right, but I often get the surprise, and some people get surprised in a good way, like, oh, that's a lot of work, like, oh, it's impressive, whatever. But I also felt, the need to, or feel the need to justify it, because like I'm aware how different it, like. I think part of reading about and preparing, yourself about the cases is to get build the awareness of how different these people are. But someone has to be saying, with all those differences, look, this is exactly the same thing, and it keeps happening. We keep seeing the same mechanism, and that must mean something in the end, and maybe like people like that.
I mean, what I came to the, let's say, the final conclusion after my PhD. Of course, I didn't write about that, but in a way, I mean, this human evil, really, this kind of evilness, it's so boring. Actually, it's so similar, wherever you put it actually crystallizes in very similar way.
Yes. With
all in that sense, maybe even it's maybe let's say a good thing about it, that it's really easily recognizable.
Yeah, you would think so, right? Yeah.
Because it really doesn't. It's not innovative,
No,
Which was kind of a relief for me,
Yeah. But yet you keep, why we can see this coming at this point, because we've been like going in circles around this for a while.
Unfortunately, I can. Once you start,
well,
once you recognize that,
you were talking about how when you saw the denial for you was the proof, right? How, like how you're like reasoning, by I don't know how to say it like in English, but like you're going the other way. The fact that you're denying it then means that this is exactly what's happening. You are not aware of it, but I am, because there's a pattern, like you are so predictable. You're boring, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
So I totally understand. And also I think.
Oh, maybe this is another aspect that I should maybe write in my reflection.
Oh, I think it's a super interesting, the fact that while you were engaged in this, that was the moment, it's a very valuable anecdote, I think, quote unquote anecdote of like, it's also interesting that something so horrible, that it's so hard to understand how it can happen when you let it sit. It's this predictable, square thing, right?
But this is exactly that banality of evil. I mean, she said that what people really, what they found the most disturbing, when she wrote this report from Ayman's trial,
is how she,
that she laughed actually because he was not stupid, but something like stupid, boring.
It's so basic, so primal that you can't
really believe that it is possible. To be so trivial.
And she paid the price.
Because people really expect some demon there.
Something
demon,
that
I don't know,
psychiatry would need to uncover.
How Hitler or Milosevic or whoever, how they hypnotize people. I mean, come on. I mean,
people were just not thinking.
Yes, I mean, they allowed themselves. They were playing to be hypnotized. Of course, I mean,
this like willingness to just stop thinking, right? And it's true how it's over and over the same thing, like what you're saying about bureaucracy, how you still see that we don't talk about it, it's like people and so the fact that it is such a simple thing that keeps reproducing, it also means that we could fight against it, we could change it, we could it would be an issue of making a priority.
Collective action is the only way.
The collective responsibility and the collective well, at the same time it's like frustrating because I think, for my PhD, I'll do this, and then eventually I'll get to a pattern, because I'll push for it until because I've been feeling the pattern for years. I just have to get to the point where I can substantiate it, and that's why I'm doing all the work. And maybe it's not exactly the pattern I thought 5 years ago.
No,
it's going to be different.
Yeah.
But there is a pattern. There is a pattern.
Absolutely. If you sense it, if you feel it, you know there is.
I feel it in my gut.
You just have to find out the right words, how to
eloquently.
How to name now this
but
processes.
I fear the cynicism that will come with it for me, because I feel that lots of people who see these things, eventually it's hard to not become a cynic, like a simple, they just say, obviously. I mean, of course. I mean, now, right now in Kuwait, for example, there's this whole thing going on where like a bunch of people are probably going to be deported as refugees to other countries. Deported as refugees, whatever that means.
Euphemism again,
They're talking about the final solution. The government is using the words final solution. It's like it blows your mind that this is happening.
This is again, as I said, they're totally not innovative. It's like, no. That they all read
no creativity whatsoever.
The same, instructions, from
the same
young
words.
Turks, who were, exterminating the Armenians to Hitler, to everybody. Like, what? They use the same manual. What?
Even I think Giovanna was saying this, and the erased person also said it. The expression chifu. And it's like, this is an expression that was used for just, oh man, okay, this is so repetitive. And then, you do all this thing, you do all this work, but then you keep wondering, why does it ever change, And then I think eventually, politically, you end up thinking, well, I will change whatever I can in my little world, right? But the pattern will as long as this doesn't come from a lot of people at the same time, it will still be a pattern, when I have grandchildren and when my grandchildren have grandchildren, if we're still around as a planet.
I mean, for example, of course, for me, it's, in a way, I don't know, terrible to see genocides that were going on even after Rwanda, in Darfur, with Rohingya, in Burma, and or I don't know, in Amazon against the natives, people,
with indigenous people.
Indigenous, I mean that's
it's
it's not even
it's a mother of genocides, right?
And so it's and there are hundreds of people who were dedicated to genocide studies, who actually discovered everything that could be discovered,
name everything that is to be named. It's the work is done, and yet that is still I think that's why I also was kind of very impressed when I found out about the erased and about the piece pretty much at the same time, and I was impressed that that an institution that mixes research, serious research, because everything that I've read from you people is great. Okay, I haven't read anything that I say everything is just
but
this is good.
That was possible just because we were actually outside established academia,
that too, right? Because why is this not happening at the university, right? It's this kind of hub of resistance.
Because then you couldn't really
that's what I've been told too.
Such
there are topics,
research work,
which is kind of it's a shame, and at the same time it's fine, that you just exist outside, but that gives me hope. Even how can a thing like this exist for almost 30 years? Because you might exist for 10 years, but live for long, it's you would think before that people probably would have conflicts, would hate each other, or something or the political pressures would be so strong that they couldn't survive, or the funding would even with no funding, they keep whatever, or something is happening there, and maybe there's hope that we need a bunch of places like that, not just one in Slovenia, or because I've seen other institutes and
autonomous
centers.
zones.
Yeah,
to
that-
take it from a radical
And
political thought.
feel the energy. There is this activist energy, and activists, I think sometimes I have the feeling that it's about being stubborn, because you're always fighting something that is bigger than you. You know that the odds are against you, and yet you keep doing it. Why? Because you're stubborn.
Okay,
Because
maybe to manifest you maybe how important role actually, let's say socially really important role that peace institute, let's say plays is, I don't know if you know that we have this political party in parliament, the left.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you know its genesis, how it came
No.
out? No? Yeah. Well, there was, Peace Institute started a reading circle, it was called Working and
That I didn't know.
Punk University.
Ah, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Okay.
And these
this.
young guys, like let's say this left, ambitious, Marxist scholars,
It's this thing,
this
okay.
is it, yeah.
But okay. You go on with the story.
And so then they started, their, connecting, and because really, in academia they couldn't really
There was no room
read
for them.
and study Marx, and this Marxist authors.
What do you mean? Was this in? This was after the independent, or they couldn't. You couldn't read Marx.
No, because we could read, but there was not part of a curriculum, that you really would study.
So you went from Yugoslavia to not being able to read.
Of course, all the professors, all the faculties, it's like, let's forget about it,
Okay.
That's Marxism and blah blah blah. That's something
Like
that
a
we
cleanse.
So actually this new generation, of young intellectuals, who really, who wanted, to get also, theoretical knowledge, from this heritage, they started then to get it here,
Right.
and it was Peace Institute's project, and after years and years, when there was more and more of them gathering there, etc. And there were these risings in Slovenia in
Yeah.
year 2012, 2013, after that, austerity measures,
Yeah.
and when we were threatened that Troika will come to Slovenia as well, and so on. And then we came into this, the risings, people's rising, in Slovenia and so on. And there was many, initiatives, that were established at that time. And one of them was also Initiative for Democratic Socialism, which was established by the people who were here, And at that time, it was in 2014, I also joined to that Initiative for Democratic Socialism.
And it was like the basis for a party.
And then we established a political party, Initiative for Democratic Socialism, and then within 1 year we then formed a coalition of the United Left. It was then a party also for sustainable development, and also this workings party, something like that. And so we established this coalition, and we first we went for the European Parliament in 2014, and we didn't get any MPs there, but at the national parliament, we got then already in 2014, representatives, Luka Mesec and these guys there, And afterwards, there was now then this merging of two parties of IDS, Initiative for Democratic Socialism, and this Sustainable Development Party, into a unified party of Levica, of the left, in 2016, 2017, or something like that. And now they are still in the parliament, and they were even actually this government now, the minority government. Actually, they established an agreement
Yes,
that
to
the
be
left
able
to support the government, but they will not really be part of the coalition. So
And you're still involved in that. You're
no.
So it was at the beginning.
It was I was more at the beginning, yes, but later then I just couldn't. I didn't have time really for doing that and so on. But actually, what we have now, this, one of the real, like left of these new left parties, that are actually, present in national parliament. Slovenia is among those countries, and it is a directly heritage of this project of the Peace Institute. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's
but of course,
a good thing.
But if you ask now these, members of parliament, Kamensis and Kordish, etc., they will not. They don't have anything in this institute.
Yeah. It's like ignoring your own.
Yeah.
This. Yeah, when we saw this the first day, I started here. The first day I came here, there was also someone who she was starting her internship, and the two of us were like giving a tour or whatever. And when we saw this, and he sort of gave us a bit of input, and then I started.
They had very, very interesting seminars. Yeah, every year, Peace Institute published a book. Yeah, because they had a special topic for every year.
Right.
So we have year 98, 99. I have whole collection, and they also have them.
It's the fact that this thing was, eventually it leads somewhere, but the fact that people are getting together to think together without that is
out of the academic establishment.
Yeah,
you have to create.
There's a space, unique energy, in that I think that's even the punk factor in it, which is it's not academic in any obvious way.
It's a university. At the time when I was at the Peace Institute, it was always like this. Okay, should it become get really like a graduate program? That you get this authorization, from the Agency for Higher Education, etc. And so I don't know. We already have university, like working, workers' punks university. And this is something again that really draws it's connected with the heritage of the movement, civil society movement,
the peace
from
movement.
The end of 1980s.
Which Joanna was telling me about that, and that's how
last she will explain about that.
I'm hoping to talk with her. She's
she was one of the major actors at the time.
How old is Vlasta? To me,
she's
atemporal.
She's 60
because of the stories. It's like this woman is atemporal.
She's 60 years old.
Because it's hard. Because of the fact that you're talking about an independent, like a country that became independent in 1991, it's 1991 was the beginning of something, but it's hard when you come from outside to see the continuity. You lose it. You lose the sense that the forms of things might change. And that also means that certain things change in a deeper way, but there are things that don't change at all, or that very much, persist over time. And that's kind of the way those things work together. You don't really get that. I didn't get that feeling from outside very clearly. It's like, and it's so necessary because I think. Otherwise, it's a very myopic understanding, even of the erasure. It's like, where does the sea come from? There was racism, sure, but it has a whole, and it's a challenge.
You just have to dig a little bit,
but
just a little bit.
Because that's the thing, that once you start digging into Yugoslavia, it's like,
don't dig too much.
It's very.
Everywhere there are bones under.
They're like bodies under. So, how did you do with language in Rwanda? Like, did you go to Rwanda for field work or something?
I was working there.
With a translator, like Naya is doing? Or?
No, actually, we found there some Anglophone people who actually came as a refugees, so for example, who returned to Rwanda after the genocide,
right.
And they were Anglophones, so they helped us a lot. And also, I mean, most of the people there, they started to communicate somehow, some form of English, let's say.
So you did interviews with like local actors?
No. I wasn't really. I wasn't doing interviews. I was really mainly studying, all sorts of sources that
documents and stuff.
Like books or I don't know some transcripts from, let's say, from the tribunals,
yes,
tribunals.
I understand. Okay, so then you have like the written basis, and you can play. Okay, because that's also one of the things when I don't speak any of the languages of like Yugoslavia, and it feels like I mean, yes, you can work with translators, and I think you can go very far in that direction. But there's also,
I mean, of course, I mean, if you do a comparison on such a level, it really makes almost no sense, to go and look for some personal, experience.
Of course.
I mean, before you can dig out something, it's. I don't know how to do
700
interviews.
So in my case, the thing about like speaking with race persons that again I was like open to it, but I didn't come set on it, or like this has to happen because otherwise
for you, it
was like
to understand. And that is why for me it's also,
it was the same thing for you.
A problem, of course, to understand Bosnian context. But for Rwanda, of course, I had to go there.
Like to just like get right. Okay, that's good to know.
I was kind of more checking of what I already read.
But you want to make sure you're not.
I just want to get something.
The kind of thing that you get when you talk with
For
people.
example, what was very interesting thing when I was making this comparison, of course, there was sexual violence. Sexual violence, in both contexts, But for example, in a Bosnian context, there was also, there were some reports about sexual violence against men as well,
In the Bosnian context.
Rapes, etc. Even like forcing, fathers, having sexual intercourse with daughters or mother with son, etc. And it was documented, even it appeared in some cases, court cases, and so on. Very rarely, but it was.
But still, it means something for sure.
When I came to Rwanda, and it was really, I could see when I started asking about these things, people didn't want to talk about it. It was like, it was not like, because they kind of pretended that they don't know what am I talking about, because it was obviously such a taboo because of homosexuality and so on, So but I found, for example, in one it was kind of a report of one NGO who were working with victims of raped women, sexual victims of rapes and sexual violence, and then they, for example, they classified what kind of forms of sexual, crimes were committed against women, and you have different forms then, what from rape and then you had also mention of this, like forcing, male relative having, sexual intercourse with a woman, and they classified it as a crime against woman only. They didn't. They didn't really see, that man also as a victim of sexual violence,
Which is like
so I could really now say, okay, now this is really obviously culturally such a taboo that it's just non-existent.
Yeah. must have been tough to get like access, right? To be able to talk to people about those things.
But it was possible because we were really kind of, we got really very acquainted with this group of women, that Maya is now working with, and so they were very willing, very open, to help us.
I guess, if you find the right allies.
Whatever if we would approach them, here we are researchers here, then that would be completely different. But as we were kind of more friends, and we worked on a project together.
Exactly. You collaborate with people, and then it's a different feeling, which is what we all should be doing. I don't know if you know her. I know this Slovenian friend that was telling me about the protest of D-Race on the street, lying on the street. Her name is Nina Moknic, I don't know, and she works on sexual violence in Bosnia, and she's still doing work. Maybe my pronunciation is so terrible that you don't realize.
Nina, but
it doesn't ring a bell at all, or no, because she also was working on that, and I think then she did some work in Africa as well, but not in Rwanda. And I've talked a lot with her, and and on top of that, you were like researching genocide more generally, like in two different places. That must have been difficult.
It was very.
It's such the need to understand brings us really far.
And I really had to explain in the beginning that this PhD is its purpose is not just that I'm doing this just for some curiosity or that I need to understand it. I could do it private like this. I just read and then I understand and so on. It's just that I wanted with writing this, with PhD, I wanted really to fight against this phenomenon.
Yeah. So for you, it was again like an
this is again activism. It's like Bertolt Brecht said, book is a weapon, take it to your hands. So I was like, okay, I'm a researcher, so this is my weapon.
Which
against this evil,
Well, I guess if you approach it like that, it becomes it keeps you going in a very unique way, because what I've talked with Nina about is hearing about the things that were done. It takes you to a level. It's so deeply disturbing. Like what she does is work. She works with groups of women, different groups. She's been working like for 7 years or something on the ground, and she goes and they it's basically like through theater, because she has background in theater, but it's about memory and trauma through theater, and so obviously these women keep coming to this to these spaces of expression, which means that you're doing something, that you're helping them somehow, but it's a level of, and it's so close in time still that
but you should know also that every activist has his or her own trauma.
How can you not? From listening to this.
No. You have a trauma from before that you have to heal, and you can heal the trauma only by by
I get that.
activating yourself, and not only helping people. It's not that
it's not selfless.
You just need because
there's something in you that needs to be.
People really we respond differently, to injustices, to traumas that we suffer. Some they deal with it in a negative way,
they hide, or
they want to avenge, or they become starting to hate, or I don't know, scapegoating. Well, some just become like okay, now I want to fight. People are fighters. And you can fight, heal your own trauma by fighting this system.
And I guess the thing with trauma is that it doesn't really it's not that it doesn't heal, but it's not a thing. there's no closure, right? It's like this thing is going to be with you. So in a way, it explains why
it's never. I mean,
it never goes away.
No, never.
And so that, if I follow what you're saying, it's like then that's where you get your fuel to keep going.
Yeah.
When other
I
people
always have my pause. Even if I'm not, I know when I stopped. To this activist work after I finished my research with the race, I started with my PhD, research, genocide, then I started with this, political, activism, for me it was the same, just
it's the same person
if
in
I
different.
work in the political, I can work, as activist in a NGO, I can work as
for the government.
The government, what I can do as official, or I don't know, as in a political party, for example. Right now, at the moment, I'm trying. I'm starting one grassroots, initiative in my in Bežigrad, in this part of Ljubljana, where we live. Where mayor has like big plans of some construction hotels. There was some Turkish group coming, like twin towers and over gentrification.
Evil.
No, I am with Ursula. We're starting
That's evil.
And so I mean, and in a way, I always come somehow at those, neuralgic issues, at some point, that they occur, and just like, okay, nobody's going to do this,
That's what I'm saying. That's activism. This is so counterintuitive. Who would fight this? I will.
It's like I can't wait others, Maybe some others will follow me.
It's the opposite of the mentality of the bystander. It's the opposite of what
totally
enabled
opposite.
the Holocaust and all the genocides. It's because it's bystander thinks like other people are
and
doing
I
this.
can see actually that through this activism, I preserve my health, my mental health, my sanity.
So it's the opposite.
People say like, what's driving you? I mean, I love myself, and that is
that's why I fight. But that's all I think that's it's very
actually very selfish in a way.
But I mean, there has to be something about oneself, because otherwise I don't know, if you do it from the humanitarian perspective, which, I mean, it also has, it's not that it has no value, but you never want to kind of like look at the suffering other as this exotic thing that, you're coming here from your privilege to help. You want to be... You want to have a different connection with that other, although maybe you're not undergoing the same situation, but there's a, I can see.
I always ask, like, okay, what can I do? What can I do? What is my limit?
Yeah, exactly.
What actually, I mean, to which extent
am I willing to?
Does it have sense, for me to be active, in this field, As I said with the race, I said now there was with Neja started with this project and so on, and
you saw this is
I said okay, it's going on, obviously great, I can go on.
And in a way, you can see with all that struggle, like that. Different people at different times, and I feel like the Peace Institute is a lot like that. Different people at different times. Who was saying? Giovanna was saying, like, people come and leave their mark, and then maybe they go on to different things. And even that, like, how many spaces of research can you think that function like that? I've never seen one. Like, if you left your mark, you want to stay there. You want to make it yours. You will never just be like there for it to shine and then you go. It's even there's something bigger than the people, and people are okay to contributing to it.
But that's because we are not egomaniacs.
I wonder how much of that has to do with the fact that all of you were people who were shaped precisely in a different system, where like these values that are against everything that now runs us, right? And this ethic values
I
that
mean,
you can't.
because we, especially, I mean, my generation at least, you know, we still have that memory that it is, I mean, that we can live different lives.
Yeah. That there is an alternative.
Another world is possible.
Yeah.
Which is, for example, you know, people in the West, they don't have this, you know, in their collective memory.
No.
You know. For us, it is still alive, you know. You know, for example, when my husband and I, when we talk about this to our children, our daughter who is now 16 years old, we say, oh, okay, now we're going to listen about Yugoslavia again.
But you know, I think in the right time, maybe the generation of your daughter, because I also remember being a teenager, you feel like a bit like distant, but then maybe 10 years later, you find that there's something affected.
It's just that we have this, you know, we have this, we feel responsible to pass on, you know, on our children, you know, this experience, this really unique experience,
It is a unique experience.
Of Yugoslavia.
And the lucidity it gives you to see certain things just because it's a comparative exercise.
I mean,
you're constantly comparing.
I mean, we are not really, you know, like idealizing and romanticizing, you know, because there are,
were bad things to it,
you know,
for
there
sure.
are people, you know, who carry out, you know, Tito's pictures, etc. And like, you know.
And I mean, bad things happen under that authority as well. It's
we
like
always say that really, there were, of course, bad, you know, practices and so on, and they should be fixed, you know. But there were so many, you know, so really so noble, I would say, experiments and I know these relationships, you know, among people. How they were really constructed, you know, they were much more genuine, much, you know. I know it was just, you know, incomprehensible that you would know that your neighbor is hungry, you know, and that would be impossible.
How fast,
you know.
that can be crushed, right? It blows your mind.
This, you know, this solidarity and so on. It's like, you know, that you just take care of yourself. Okay, but what if something happens to you? Who will take care of you? You know?
Just a basic thing, and it takes so much work to build that, and then it's crushed in it just like that, right? And that's what blows my mind, in how short a time that can just be a memory, you know. And it was like, I'm 35, right? It's like not even the length of my life, you know. Like it's. I know that towards the end it was, you know, that it was not a year, it was a whole transition. I understand that, and that I wouldn't have really experienced.
I mean, when I listen to these stories about, you know, how Yugoslavia was such an, you know, artificial, you know, construct and blah blah blah, and so on and so forth, and that, you know, Bosnia, it can't be like, you know, that it because it's so ethnically and religiously so heterogeneous, you know, that it's not.
It could have worked.
It's not natural, you know, that people, you know, like to live together and so on. I said, but come on, I mean, if it wasn't natural, I mean, would that war be so bloody? If it would be so normal for them to get separate, you know, from each other, I mean, why then they were fighting so much?
Again, it's the same.
Again, this twist, I mean, like, you know, totally illogical, you know, like, you know, something so unnatural, you just, you know, like,
bye.
Okay, bye, and that's it. Like Czechs and Slovaks, for example. I say, why didn't we divide like Czechs and Slovaks?
We had to have divorced a long time ago.
At the same time, they divorced.
That twist is very.
And they, you know, they separated with, you know, with an agreement. You know? And we had this, you know, terrible, you know, fraternity.
This hurtful, like, divorce. That's a really good point.
And of course, you know, and then from how I understand, you know, how Yugoslavia was collapsing actually when as I looked, as I experienced at the time as a child. I was in primary school in 1980s. Actually, when I realized afterwards, it was because of the economic crisis, because of a debt crisis, that started in the beginning of 1980s.
It was,
again, and when all this euro crisis and everything with the collapse of financial system started in 2008, 2009, when with the crisis in Greece and in other countries. Oh my God, it's a deja vu. This is exactly what we went through in Yugoslavia in 1980s.
Right.
Do people? Again, what I can see, why do those stupid bureaucrats don't see it? That they're actually making completely the same, mistakes as they were happening in Yugoslavia.
Right.
Actually, Yugoslavia collapsed because of economic crisis, not because
people couldn't live together
or live or whatever. Yeah, that's nonsense. People lived together for hundreds of years. During that Second World War period, it was terrible. Because we had our own Holocaust actually.
Yeah.
But it was part of a global, process that was, it was really nonsense.
It's not that these people were not meant to live together because of these people. Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Maybe, I always say sometimes it's not so good to understand so many things.
And the fact that you have,
especially when you're a parent,
I think the fact that you can compare worlds and that lots of people can't, and so they can't imagine that it could be different. They cannot even begin to imagine how it's
different. Because when they see
different.
something that's inevitable.
So
when we look through these political processes, nothing is inevitable. Anything could be stopped at any time. If people wouldn't decide to be bystanders,
right,
or take the easier way.
It sounds like in a way, and I'm not saying this was necessarily the case with all the people, but it sounds like maybe you and other people who created or feel like that and were also raised in Yugoslavia, there was this embracement of being political. That now is everybody's saying new generations, they feel that and now it's now we see that they are it's not true, right? That it's just a different way, or but it feels that that's a kind of what I see, because I listen to you in this, and it's you have more hope, about things being changed than perhaps your daughter, for example.
Absolutely,
and it's shouldn't this be the other way around? The person who saw how wrong things can go now saying, and the young person saying, no, let's change everything. It's how we change it roles, and it makes me think that maybe precisely because you are able to compare.
Everything comes in cycles, I think.
That's true too, because then when you see the climate strike and all that, you're people are hungry for politics. They want to embrace it.
I feel you really. I love this generation. And I really feel them This
even
is something
with feminism, I think there might be some, with all this movement. At least, that's.
I love these children. I know in Chile, in Ecuador,
because now it's
in
happening
Hong Kong, everywhere.
It's buzzing now. I've been. To me, it was I guess, with the feminist, or what we call in whatever North America, it's very much comes under feminism, but it feels kind of politics are inevitable in the end, and it's a good thing, because there's
what's a surprise.
But that gives me hope sometimes that and well, when you see how it's buzzing in the world, and I've been following Chile very closely too, just because I mean,
Of course,
the closeness, and it's like, things rub the wrong way, and now it's a revolution. It's like, no, this has been like cooking for a long time, but in a way that not in the kind of cooking where people, organize themselves before.
I mean, this is something really that I don't know that I know at least elites, establishment doesn't forget that we are actually in a constant revolution. Constantly. I mean, really. I mean, if I know, for example, my daughter, she's a typical child of crisis.
Yeah.
I mean, she was born in 2003. Oh, I hope it's mine. And she asked me, like, I don't know, when then was this 2008, 2009, and I don't know how old was she, and she asked me, like, but mommy, I mean, how long will this crisis last, I said to her, don't worry, it won't end. I said, as far as I remember, my whole life has been a crisis, so just get used to it. It's nothing really special. So I calmed her down, with that, and just,
it worked.
Yeah, and
she now embraced it.
Yeah, that's it. My memories, as far as I go, I remember, that the beginning of the 1980s crisis, when we were out of coffee, when things like that, running out of.
You don't remember bad crisis?
Yeah, and then of course, I don't know, maybe. Then we had this huge inflation in Yugoslavia,
right?
In the middle of 1980s, and then Milosevic came to power, and then started his this warmongering in Kosovo, etc. And then we started with establishing new states, etc.
Yeah.
And we had this
it's a constant. You're right.
And then afterwards we had the transition.
And like all at the same time, the transition, the independence, the erasure. It's like,
and then we came, we entered the European Union. Also,
right.
Wow, we are in paradise. And for a couple of years, oh God, we had economic growth, peaking, and so on. And suddenly collapsed again. So
even in the European, things can go wrong.
Okay, of course, it was too good to be true anyway. Now we are back to normality.
Great prices again. Good.
Again. So
feels like home.
Good. So we can because you can do when you're in crisis. You can do revolution. So you're in a constant revolution.
There's room for a change if things are shaking, right? That definitely gives me hope.
Yeah.
In so many ways. Yeah. Who would have, known that from a conversation about such a hard issue as the erasure, hope would emerge.
But I mean, be careful. When we talk about hope, we talk about hope without optimism. If you read Terry Eagleton last year, I think 2 years ago, he published a book. Hope without optimism.
Hope without optimism. Okay.
Yeah. So always when people say to me, "Oh, you're so optimistic," I said, "No, I'm not optimistic. I'm just hoping."
I hope. Because one
shouldn't think.
I never thought about that difference. I was never,
not optimistic at all.
I don't idealize pessimism or anything but I find optimism definitely a very difficult thing when you're constantly trying to understand.
Lying to yourself.
I guess. It's very hard. It's very it's hard, and it feels like you're trying too hard to see things in a way that you actually don't see that, right? If you're engaged in the process of always trying to, if you're always constantly driven by the fact that I think there's something more there, that the researching thing and everything, how can you be optimistic? But hopefully it's more like a human.
You always allow for something,
bright and
good music happening.
And the pieces, they have this, I don't know who put it there, but it's this, I think it's a Leonard Cohen's like citation that says, there's a crack in everything, that's where light comes through. I don't know who, but it's like, I can,
Canadian,
I think, that's
always a crack. You should always use the crack. You know? As for example, with this initiative, again, this mayor's plan, and so on. Because they open now the possibilities, to lodge in initiatives, because they need to change, urban planning for their, for their plans, so I use it, and I
have another plan.
I have another plan here.
So what's your plan for that?
Actually, I propose that municipality should build a multi-purpose, zero carbon, passive community center.
Okay.
Something like would be like an educational center where people could really come and learn about how we should now, as a society, make this transition to low carbon.
So educate people on environmental and climate issues and all that.
And make all sorts of this, green infrastructure.
So this instead of the hotel?
Instead of that hotel. And I said, look, and there is, in Bologna, city of Bologna, they established this office
but
for...
Bologna is like...
I know. But
I mean, the people there are like, the trenches.
I said, no, look, we can, take their example, because the municipality itself established, office, how they named it, office for the imagination of citizens or something like
in Bologna?
In Bologna. I said, we should do it in Ljubljana.
I love an office for the imagination of that.
So I said, I would like to see that, bureaucrat there, in that division in urban planning, and my initiative is just one paper, page. Instead of that, you should build this.
And use some of your imagination.
I use cracks, Whenever there's a crack, we should use it.
And I guess. So, and you're hoping that they will give you some.
No, of course.
You're just there to make them uncomfortable.
I will, of course, and I will make this, and then we'll start also collecting, of course, signatures of people around and so on. And we'll make initiative and opposing.
Just make them uncomfortable at least.
Opposing the gentrification that we want, to preserve identity of our community. Blah blah blah.
Plus, it would put Ljubljana as like as a vanguard city to do something like they did in Bologna, right? So you can always sell it in the sense of like something that they can turn into some form of profit, because then people would want to see it, and it would be a touristic attraction, and that's the thing.
Of course, I mean, they will get angry totally with us. But I mean, at least you're having fun.
And as you say, if you experience it like this, I mean, it would be doing nothing.
I'm
that
just
would
using
make you
legal means,
very inspiring.
That was, I mean, can you imagine that it's 8 o'clock?
So we've been talking for like 3 hours.
3 hours and a half.